like signed in, saw I hadn't typed anything and took off, or if you looked more deeply. I don't have a ton of notes for this, even though it looks like I do. But I had some stuff. A lot of this is just to help me remember things, but more than talk about them. So we'll have to see if I do all right. It might not be like an hour and a half. You know what I mean?
That is totally fine. Like my sinuses are kicking me right now. I don't know what's happening. It's like I was doing fine, and I guess my sinus decided it's a good idea to drain into his throat today. I was like, no, why? Why today of all days? It's Monday without fail for me sometimes.
Did you start the podcast yet?
I went live, but I'm waiting to hear from the internet telling me that I went live. Twitch doesn't. Hold up.
I avoid anything personal when I know that we're on our way to being live. That's why I checked.
Oh, I guess we are live. I guess Twitch is on time. Okay, whatever. Hey everybody, welcome to the Anime4All podcast season 2 for the Shaman King Power Hour. Well, actually not really Power Hour, more like Power 30 minutes or however long this is gonna be.
He never lets me talk. He wants to do the intro all by himself every single time. Doesn't even introduce me. He just starts in with and if I interrupt him, he gets all like pretentious. He's just like, oh, and then he kind of cuts back in with his thing like, all right, let's get back to the point, which is not Jock. I understand what it's like.
I don't have a comeback at all.
Here's his silence. Here's his like.
I don't have a comeback at all.
Pretentious silence where he tries to show me that this is not my place. I'm speaking out of turn right now.
You can speak in. I had nothing to say. No comeback at all. Not even one. Not exactly what we're just. When the background music play us out. This is about the first time they ever started with the very first song on the track. Breaking the fourth wall.
Get back to the point to introducing the show, or are you just going to start rambling?
They've already introduced it. You just kind of cut me off in the middle of it.
Yeah, see what I mean? See, everybody? This is what he gets. He does this to me every time.
Muting. More like muting myself, not muting you. Haha. We're back for the Shaman King Power Hour, or more or less Power, whatever it is going to be right now. Because Shaman King kind of ended suddenly.
Academia kind of ended, right?
My Hero Academia kind of ended suddenly. Well, not ended, more like the season cut off with 25 episodes, but I guess it's now what they're actually sticking with. That's actually good to know, because I was actually curious about that. I wasn't keeping track of it until I noticed that 25 episodes had actually aired. I guess on this talk of My Hero Academia, I saw this really weird fan animation that I don't know if it's animated from the manga or not, but it looked really cool. I'm not gonna say any more than that. Just that I'm pretty sure if people are on YouTube know what I'm talking about. There's an animation that kind of made it to my recommended feed. I don't know why YouTube does this to me, but eh. I guess real quick, what we're gonna do, since I haven't done this in a while, we're gonna take a peek at our stats on the podcast real quick. And hope everybody has had a wonderful Monday, or whatever day you're listening to this is, because I had no idea when people actually decided to download this.
Probably not Monday.
Probably not. I mean, people hate Mondays. Am I right?
Looks like somebody's got a case of the Mondays. Mondays. That's all I got. I don't know what you expected me to say.
You built that up like you had something actually to say, something really profound.
No, don't you? Are you planning on uploading it on a Monday? That's like almost a week away. It is a week away. You're not uploading it today, right?
No, I never upload these. Is the day that we broadcast. It gives the people who want to watch it live something reason.
Is there anybody in your stream?
What?
Is there anybody in your stream watching it now?
There's somebody. One person.
Oh.
I don't know who that. I don't know who that is.
It's one person.
Dang it. I almost called you Steve there, and like I've been saying "dang it, Steve" a lot lately.
Why do you hate me?
Wow. Okay, on to the stats. Oh, I think we had an uptick of 2 followers. I didn't notice. I think we were at 5 the last time I checked. We're at 7 now.
Oh, cool.
We went down in our, like, I guess, downloads in the last 30 days, but that's fine. We're having a pretty slow October. We probably won't pick up till like maybe the end of the month, probably. Let's see here. We had total downloads of 48 in September. We're almost actually on level with last month. We're at 30 downloads right now. The most downloads we've ever had is in July of this year, and 109. I'm pretty sure it is no coincidence to the My Hero Academia stuff we talk about. I want to say that must have been during a huge like climax of an arc. Almost certain it had to be
The huge climax
of an arc. I'm gonna preface that with an arc.
Yeah, an arcing huge climax. I hear you.
You just stay over there with your frothy body, fellow. I already told you I don't want to see it. This man's literally tried to show me a frothy body pillow. It's very disturbing.
Just for anyone that's listening and doesn't quite pick up the word he's saying, it's froppy, F-R-O-P-P-Y, and not frothy, F-R-O-T-H-Y that he's saying.
I don't know. I mean, it could be either or. I've been saying frothy unless I'm self-conscious. Dang it, Jock. Okay, we're gonna move on with the actual episode review here. We're reviewing episodes of Shaman King, episodes 17 and 18. I think that's correct. Yeah, 17 and 18. We're just gonna start with episode 17 here with his notes. Apparently the episode's called Guns and Angels, which is kind of apt because of what happens in this episode. Another thing is that there's another death, another bloody death. This show likes to blindside me with a lot of death. Apparently, it's funny in a show about spirits, but I mean, this is cool. So I guess on your notes here you have like notable name notes. Apparently, Ryu Pompadour. It almost seems like you were kind of shocked that I guess Toga, how you pronounce this guy? Toga. Snake Dude was his spirit guardian. Boris Tepes, Dracula, Shikigami, Bolomaro, Possessed. Oh yeah, but that was like last episode. That wasn't this episode.
Togagero was the guy's name. I had taken a little bit of time and tried to look up if his name had any special meaning, because it is a name. And what I saw online, I don't know if they were real or not, because the names were listed were like all over the place. Like basically based on the websites I checked, his name could mean almost anything. In fact, inconsistent is actually one of the words that I saw listed as part of the meaning of his name. So, I thought it was kind of interesting that the name could basically mean anything for a character that's kind of all over the place. So that's why I wrote that down in my notes, that I just thought it was kind of interesting that Ryu, who's such an evolving character, has a spirit that could basically be called anything that's similarly all over the place.
Oh, Ryu's name is based off of some town in ancient Japan. Town of Okizumo was one of the early centers of Tara iron making method and remains the only modern site of it. Wait, what? It's still up?
What?
That site? I mean that I guess Okizumo's like early iron making is still up. Like the shop is still like active.
Yeah, and in fact, it's the last one of its type in Japan. So the traditional Japanese, it's the only modern site that still makes that iron, and they produce the steel for traditional Japanese swords, but they're the only place that left that does it. So it's really consistent for a place where people were trying to become warriors, I thought, which was super interesting. And I also thought it was interesting that the mountain's name is made out of the kanji's boat and to cross, because for a story that has such a connection to mythologies and things like that, and seems to be extremely aware of all the various mythologies that they're working with, Native American, Japanese, Chinese, and so forth. It was interesting to see that, and then know what they it was interesting to see that and then know what they know about the River Leith. Are you familiar with that?
The what?
The River Leith.
No, that's not. Don't think I am familiar with that.
Okay, so the River Leith is in Greek or Roman mythology. I believe it's Greek. Is a river that you cross when you die, and it's a river of forgetfulness, and you forget everything as you cross it. So you forget your past life and things like that. But it's interesting to me that when he was supposed to climb the mountain, named after kanjis that say boat and cross, almost like he's crossing into the underworld, because that's such a common, that's not obscure. Like, the River Leith is like the most famous river in mythology, I'm pretty sure, and like in any mythology, you know what I mean? And it's interesting that he had to cross something that was like the River of Forgetfulness, and then he comes out of it, with his pompadour gone and his hairstyle like ragged and normal again, and a changed man in a lot of different ways, you know what I mean? So I thought that was an interesting thing. And also, you know what I mean, how these characters have all sort of had like their transformations when they become more complete shamans has all been focused around the idea of a death, that you have to die before you can be reborn as a shaman. So I thought that was super interesting about the mountain. So that's why I put those notes down about the town and everything, that like this, you couldn't possibly, it's possible it's accidental, but you couldn't possibly have a more symbolic place, you know what I mean, than the last place where they make swords in a mountain whose name like is that made out of kanjis that would represent dying, and forgetting who you were.
I guess for viewer discretion, I will be nerding out over what's the name, Orochi. Actually, having Yamata no Orochi a little bit later on in this talk. Just letting you know, if you're not interested in mythology, if you're like Okami, you really should stick around for this, because like they take some stuff from that myth and throw it around in here. They play with it a little bit. And Ryu is at the center of it, which I think is cool. But speaking of Ryu, I think it's a good opportunity to actually talk about the episode here. The episode pretty starts off with, we find out how Ryu, this is much more of a backstory thing for Ryu, finding out how and where he got his shaman abilities. Because it was kind of random. He kind of came out of nowhere with his shaman abilities, because he didn't have them beforehand. I will say, in the flashback, we see a scene with Ryu asking Yo's grandfather to train him, and then he denies him. Somehow there's a fish on Ryu's butt, and I was trying to think, is that some type of trope, or does that fish mean something? And I was kind of hoping that Jock would actually have an answer for me. But I don't think the koi that's sucking on Ryu's butt cheek.
That's a really smart thing to wonder about, but no, all I know about koi is that koi originated, I believe, in China, not Japan, so that's sort of an interesting thing since they're so sensitive about China and Japan. But I don't know the symbolism of koi, except that it's very often used in spirit world kind of symbolism, and that's just kind of a given.
Okay, maybe it's just because he was just in the lake with the koi, wasn't it? I guess maybe that doesn't mean anything. I just thought it was really odd. I guess it must be something Japanese.
Koi carp are symbolic of samurai warriors.
Okay, so I guess it has something to do with Ryu. Then I get. Okay, well, let's just.
Interestingly enough, the perseverance of koi as they swim upwards in river is likened to samurai bravery.
Actually, speaking of swimming up a river, that's kind of what Ryu does to his training.
Exactly. That's super smart that you thought to think of that. And then it's believed when koi are caught, they face the sword as samurai warriors do, by lying still and accepting death with courage. So there's another like set of metaphors for what he's about to go through. That's extremely cool that you picked up on that.
I like to play off that I did all this on purpose, but there is no way. That was all pure coincidence.
The fact that you thought to ask for the question is like really cool, because that's exactly That's exactly the kind of thing I wish I had thought of. But no, that's really cool. So like that's the symbolism of swimming upriver and everything else. That's fantastic that you thought of that. Thank you. I'm excited.
I guess as before we get to that point, we get some more flashback of the story. Well, the story with Ryu. He gets turned down by Yo's father. He ends up meeting Let me look at this guy's name. I'm never gonna know how to pronounce this guy's name correctly. Tokagero. Gero. He meets the spirit that possessed him that first time when the first time he had an encounter of a spirit with Yo, and we find out that apparently he now no longer holds a grudge, but he's still anchored to this plane of existence, which is interesting. I thought most spirits, when they got rid of their grudge, moved on. I'm guessing he's still hung up on not knowing where he belongs, and it's funny that there's some similarities between him and Ryu in terms of like trying to find out where they belong. And since Ryu gives him a home later on, after the fact, saying, "Once I become a shaman, I'm gonna give him my guardian spirit." And I guess it's a really cool moment that we find out. Okay, so it wasn't just random happenstance that he's using he's using Togagero to as his guardian spirit. I guess a little bit. We also find a little bit something out that I guess Ryu is always different, which I guess looking at him isn't that much of a surprise. But I guess that's pretty cool.
He's always different, but like, look, by the time the end of the episode, he's much more normal than he was.
Ouch.
What do you mean?
No, see, he's much more normal than he was. I just like that's not meant to be an insult, but I know it's not meant to be an insult. I just kind of find it funny. It's like I feel like if I was real, I would have taken that as an insult.
Yeah, but he loses the pompadour. He becomes a much more traditionally built warrior. You know what I mean? He becomes a more traditional shaman. And afterwards, in the next episode, he loses a lot of his eccentricity. He's just unbelievably like low Yo after that. And you can tell that he kind of like looks up to Yo because he's like, he goes to Yo's master and stays there for days to try to, you know what I mean, get similar training. He's trying to follow in his footsteps, and then like when the chips are down in the next episode, he's like, I'm with this guy no matter what.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I guess speaking of characters and just tall men, we see quote unquote Yo's father for the first time, and I say see quote unquote because he's wearing a mask.
And you gotta take it off. What is that about?
It's probably some like Japanese joke that we won't get. Let's see. I know the Japanese heavily believe in it's one of the reasons why they don't wear shoes on the inside of the house. They don't like to bring the outside world into their home. It's supposed to be a pure space. And the mask might have something to do with like mask in houses. Let's just see real quick.
Yeah, good luck finding stuff.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now. All I'm seeing is everything about COVID, which, by the way, we dated ourselves. Hooray!
Hey! You know what? I'm pretty hot. I wouldn't mind dating myself.
Okay, turn that around real quick. Dang it.
Jeremy, you've gotta love yourself, dude.
I get that, but you turn the joke around on me and just like slap me with it. Let's see this one. No, that's not the type of mask I was thinking about. Though they're I've always known this, but they're usually, even before COVID, Japanese people always seem to wear a mask when they got sick. It was a common thing.
You should date yourself. You don't think you should?
I don't know how to answer that.
I'm just saying, once you go black, you'll never go back. I think you should try it.
Wow, you had all these jokes just prepared in September, did you? You just writing them down as your little like, vacation there. Just like I gotta write this down. I gotta make sure I remember this. I gotta use this on him this exact moment when he says these words. I need to use this on him. Like,
Sorry.
you have to apologize. I can't. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'll give up. I don't know what's gonna. It might be some like stupid superstitious Japanese thing. Also, I think really what's going on there is I think because he is Yo's father, and the similarities between Hao and Yo are there, they probably don't want nobody picking up on it until like when it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure he looks like Hao. I'm almost certain that's probably what they're doing there. I guess beyond that, because because Yo's father's worried about Ryu. I find it kind of funny that after Ryu actually passes out in the rain, he wakes up in the middle of the river on a rock with his spirit also asleep. The grandfather somehow got his bike keys, tossed him onto the bike, rode him out this far, tossed him into the river, and did it all before he woke up. He is very in shape for an old man. But this is where we get interesting a little bit here this episode. They really lie heavily into a popular, I would say, or a really well-known myth within Japan about Yamato Orochi, and it's actually very interesting because they bring up they bring up Orochi, who we kind of see a little bit of a little bit of a resemblance in Ryu's attack that he presents at the end of the last episode that we don't get a chance to see until in motion until this episode a little bit later on.
Okay. Tell me about it. What's similar about it?
Eight-headed dragon. I mean, I looked up Orochi, and there's actually some instances of where Orochi is an eight-headed snake. It's actually funny. I don't know why snake and dragon are interchangeable, but they actually are in some instances. And I know that Ryu's attack is just an eight-headed snake attack, but it reminded me of Orochi so much because in some variations of the tail, it is an eight-headed snake and not a dragon. But in some instances, an eight-headed snake is actually a Hydra, another mythical creature that is dangerous. Said to be dangerous in other myths that it's related to. One interesting too is like when he gets to the top of the mountain, they bring up they're in a confrontation between Susanoo, who's the brother of Amaterasu, a goddess. It's Japanese lore is all over the freaking place sometimes, especially when it comes to gods and goddesses actually living amongst the humans. It's actually interesting. I know they have an explanation towards why they don't live amongst humans anymore, but I thought it was really weird when you really think about a lot of myths have a lot of spirits living amongst humans at some point in time, specifically in Japan. But at some point in history, that stops happening. But what's interesting is the fact that I think the name of the attack is the name of the sword that Susanoo ends up getting after cutting off the tail, one of the tails of Orochi, and it turns into a wooden sword. And that's actually the name of his attack here, which I thought was really freaking cool.
How do we feel about that wooden sword thing?
What, his wooden sword? The wooden sword in the anime, or talking about the wooden sword in the tail?
So he goes to the last place in the world that does ironworking. Walks up a river to a mountain that's known for iron making. That's the source of the iron for this ironworking place. A mountain that's famous for being a source of iron. He gets up to the top and he is told the myth of a battle between two gods and how one of them produced a legendary Japanese sword made of iron. And he walks out of there with a legendary wooden sword.
Wait, is the sword is the sword in the myth actually supposed to be made out of metal?
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on it. I just thought he cut the tail off and it just became a blade for him to use.
Alright, Kasango no Tsurugi. Let's look it up.
Eyes were red, stomach. I mean, on the subject of a wooden sword, I want to bring up Akami. Because Akami has a lot of Japanese myths wrapped up in it, but you actually get in the game you get just to see the tale of Susanoo versus Orochi kind of play out. And it's typically dopey because it's never as like fantastical as the story makes it seem. But
Yeah.
it's funny you bring up that's a wooden sword because in that
Well, because
version,
this guy is the guy of the wooden sword. That's his whole gimmick, that he has a wooden sword.
yeah, but I find it kind of funny because in the game, Susanoo also carries a giant wooden sword carved out of a tree that's famous in the town, and it's funny because I think in the fight that you see play out in the game, the sword ends up actually projecting a beam of light that he uses to cut this cut Orochi with. He doesn't get he doesn't get the tail or anything like that, but he uses a wooden sword, so I just thought it was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's funny. I don't know how you feel about it. You sound kind of disappointed, but I
I'm
find
trying
it
to find out what this sword is made of, but everything I'm seeing says it's a normal iron sword or possibly a steel sword, but it's not. It doesn't. I don't see anything that indicates that it would be anything but a regular sword. I'm sorry, I'm so hung up on that now. I know the outer box housing the sword was wood. A stone box inside of a wooden box. Red clay stuffed into the gap between them. A hollowed out log of a camphor tree inside the stone box, acting as another box with an interior lined with gold. Above that was placed a sword. Hang on. Fish. It looks like a fish line. It was fashioned in a white metallic color and maintained. The grand priest was banished after witnessing the sword. It's fashioned in a white metallic color. It makes me think it's almost definitely not wood.
you could have just painted it white.
It is fashioned in a white metallic color. No one's allowed to see it, and he's brandishing it like it's a big deal. It had a jewel on it, which this one didn't. He said it was carved of like god wood, which is cute, but I don't see any indication that anyone thought that the mythology of the sword was. I mean,
Well, here's the thing: it's not
if it
supposed to
was
be
made
seen
out
by
of wood
human.
or anything other than.
It's not supposed to be seen by humans, so it could be made out of anything we don't even know. Which is kind of why I think it's probably
You're being.
funny that it's probably made out of wood in a lot of incarnations. I don't think I've seen I've only seen a few iterations of the story, so I'm pretty sure there are some iterations of the story where there is an actual iron sword. But in this case, I think it makes more sense because, like, I mean, Yo, as you see in this episode, in the episode following, doesn't like killing anyway. So I guess it just kind of fits in with the theme that Ryu doesn't want to kill anybody.
It fits in with his gentle spirit for sure. Like the fact that he's really like embracing, the gentleness of Yo and that he looks up to Yo. It absolutely fits all that. So I definitely agree with you there. By the way, you know how I said before the podcast about the red, and you said that's almost definitely not what's going on there.
I'm gonna point out that scene I looked over several times, and the red I feel like is coming from the sunset or the sunrise, whatever you want to call it.
It's absolutely coming from the sunrise. But when the serpent was slain, it said his blood flew into the high river, which is the river that he had traveled along. And then when they looked out of it, the sun said painted like the river red, and I guarantee you that red was like a reference to the slain, because they literally, like, I looked that up and I sent you that picture before I got to the part of the episode where they said the whole myth. Like, I looked up the myth and I was like, oh, this is a reference to that myth. And then they literally brought the myth up a little bit later, and I was like, okay, you know what I mean? And then I saw that the red, and I'm like, that's a part of the myth they didn't necessarily say in the episode, but it was like such a poetic reference to it that I had a tough time believing.
Wait, what myth? I'm sorry, because I thought you were referencing something else.
No, the legendary battle between I'm gonna maul these names, but Susanoo and Yamada no Orchi, he brings it up.
I mean, I
Yamada
know
being
that was. I don't remember there being a tale about him slaying him in the blood, and the blood goes in the river. I don't remember that portion at all. But
they didn't
I
say
thought
in
you were
the
referencing something
episode.
else. Sorry, I
The
thought you were
guy
referencing
was
something else.
the guy was referencing a real myth, and that happens in the myth that when he's slain, the blood goes into the river and like flows into the river. So when you look at the river and it looks reddish, and 2 seconds later they talk about the myth, you know what I mean? Then you can generally guess that there's some sort of symbolism or reference there to the red of the river from the fact that it's beet red when he looks out at it. You know,
I mean,
like
no,
what else?
I thought you were talking about something else that was like a sea of blood. I thought that's where I thought you were going with that. But after reading that, looking, I was like, huh, maybe I misinterpreted what he was saying. So like maybe I might have misinterpreted what you're saying. But
No, I didn't think it was literal blood, but it was definitely a reference to the blood of the legend. It seemed.
But I guess after that, after Ryu ends up taking down Boris with his new attack, Boris is still alive, and then we get introduced to a whole new set of characters who I think are modeled after the Catholic Church.
You think so? You think that's a possibility? Perhaps, Jeremy.
um, One character I think has a vast resemblance. uh,
A vast resemblance, did you say?
I seriously could not literally sit there and take him seriously without thinking of Trigun. I'm dead serious. When I first saw him, I just like, he looks so familiar, like I've seen him before.
Yeah.
Everything about him is like the only thing that's different here is that he's wearing white, and his hair is like high in the sky.
I thought it was interesting that in the Ryu part of the episode, they have this big explication on how faith is a sort of strength, and that he wouldn't train Ryu unless he could prove his faith, because faith was a source of strength. And then they immediately go to a whole bunch of Christianity-based, super uber religious, in a weird Japanese kind of way, characters. You know, I thought that was super interesting that they did that. Because they're like, oh yeah, faith is the source of Ryu's power, and then like they show some super faith people.
If anybody was wondering what we were referring to, the main character Marco, his spirit, he's a shaman, by the way. Shocker. But he's a shaman whose spirit is a robot Gundam thing that's named Michael, or in this
Michael.
translation, Mikel. I know it's Michael, but they're not pronouncing it that way.
Okay, but Michael is an archangel, and
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm
And
aware.
they're the Sarai class, which is basically saying seraph, which is another word for angel.
I get that. I understand that they're not pronouncing it that way. I don't know what's been going on here, but I'm just taking the literal pronunciation. I know exactly what's going on here. I'm just taking it as like what they're giving me here. They might fix the pronunciation later. I have no idea. I highly doubt they will, because I know these things are recorded in bulk. But yeah, he is. It's funny that you say Sarah, because I thought Sarah's had more than 4 wings.
A seraph?
Yeah.
No, I mean they might have 4 wings, but I think they're more like 2 wings.
I thought they had more than. Okay. Maybe I'm thinking about it. I mean, Michael is an archangel, so I know he's supposed to have more wings.
I can see seraphs are drawn sometimes with 3 sets of wings, which is news to me, but they can also be shown with 2, or I think even 1.
Well, it's kind of weird though, because Michael's supposed to be an archangel, like the closest thing to God, the closest angel to God, and it's funny that this spirit is named Michael, but he's only got 2 sets of wings, unless he's hiding in the 3rd. And actually, I think Michael's supposed to have more than just like 3 sets of wings. Actually, I think he's supposed to have maybe, I don't know how many. I never counted, but
maybe they're hidden in his magic helmet.
Dang it.
Like spirit magic helmet.
Okay, we're gonna move on. As he's waiting to pull that one out, I can just tell. But we learn
really fast.
we learn from Marco that they also have a grudge against Hao, and we also get some I guess another thing we want to point out, because I think both Jock and I are in agreement here. They're hinting at a Lyserg changing sides thing heavily here, and a part of me is remembering images of Lyserg in that clothing, but I can't remember why. Um, so I'm almost certain that Lyserg does change sides, for one reason or another. Uh, I also would say I've actually gotten to the point where I started liking Lysorg less and less because this entire episode 17, you can see that he really does not care about life uh at all, at least when it comes to somebody who followed Howl for their own reasons. And the X laws are, which is the name of the group, um believe heavily into. They believe that the end justifies the means, and if you work with Howl, you need to be killed. And I almost want to say everybody in the X laws comes from a different part of like what of the Western world. I have no idea. But a lot of these people, there's a lot of blondes and blue-eyed characters here, so I'm almost certain some of these people are European in descent. There's just no way that they're not. They're not. They also have guns, which is another
That's why
American
when I
thing.
showed you that picture, I thought it was so awkward that a white man in a white outfit with cop glasses on and a gun looks down at the guy and says, "You would have suffered less if you hadn't resisted." You don't see anything awkward about that moment? When I sent it to you and I said, "This is just not going to age well."
Well, as you say that, after you say that, I say Trigun is that's where I was mostly focused on. I read what you said, but I couldn't get past the resemblance to Trigun.
Well, now that I say it, I mean, really, how do you not see that?
I mean, there's a lot of anime.
In a white outfit.
Anime does a lot of things. I've just kind of just moved on.
With a logo on his arm that says "Law," LAW on his arm.
Listen here, that anime has done really weird things with bad taste in the past. I mean, this is just gonna be one of those. This is gonna be one of those times that it was in bad taste.
Looks down at a fallen man.
Listen,
and says, you would have suffered less.
Listen, I have more of an issue.
You hadn't resisted.
I have more of an issue with a character that we'll talk about later, and it's just. And I'm not gonna talk about him because he hasn't come up yet. I have more of an issue with that character than this guy. I can see the cop resemblance and everything like that, but like I said, anime have made the animes have made poor taste decisions before, and I'm pretty sure he's just gonna get lost to time. Cause I didn't even know he existed until he came into this anime. I highly doubt if it gets memed. Ooh, we're in for a time on the internet. But I mean.
I mean, really, that's just, I don't know.
Well, at least everybody's white. I would have a problem if there was a black guy in there.
Yeah, I mean, at least the guy on the ground is like a football player and something instead, but still.
I find it funny. You bring up that it's like he has 21. You forget to type down that those 21 spirits were his team members.
Yeah. 21 dead team members. I think that's kind of cute. I was just saying 21 spirits because the significance there, to me, was more... I've been trying to figure out the limits because it seems sometimes slightly implied that you get one spirit and that's it. And we've been seeing a few cases where like somebody seemed to have more. But,
I think some of these people who have more don't have guardian spirits. They just got spirits. Unlike people like Yo, Rin, Horo, Ryu, Lyserg. I know I'm missing a few. The new guy. I refuse to say his name until we actually bring him up into the episode. I'm forgetting, and the other people who I'm pretty sure everybody who means anything is gonna have one spirit. Because so far there hasn't been any. Well, except for Faust. No, Faust has one spirit. Never mind. We'll talk about Faust actually in a minute because he actually pops back up again and he's singing. As he brings up that big guy Bill is what his name is, which is funny. But big guy Bill ends up nearly getting killed, And we see that Yo has a problem. I mean, we start seeing that Yo starts having like he starts drawing lines in the sand here, which what he's okay with, uh, and what he's not okay with. And death is something he's not okay with, which I guess is a common main character trope that they don't like killing anybody. If they can, they would prefer to preserve the life. For Yo, it's a little bit different though, because he doesn't like it's not like he cares about evil people. He just doesn't want to see people get hurt and get killed.
He wants to be friends with everybody. He's just like, oh no, they're all. He believes that everybody is going to prove to be good sooner or later. And to be fair to him, he's not wrong, and he has this ability to like transform people. I think it's actually sort of a cool little plot point that like Lyserg can't really beat him like with strength. Like he's not weak, but he's not stronger than Yo. So it's kind of a fun little plot point that he wants to defeat him because like he probably won't. So one of the real battles going on here is Lyserg willing to be shitty enough to overcome the strength gap in some way and betray him, or is Yo going to like defeat him with his goodness? You know what I mean? Like turn him into a good guy, basically.
Well, on to the side of like Ryu looking up to Yo. In this episode, we see Lyserg looking up to the X-Laws because they share his same view on the end justifies the means, which is basically what I'm going to go with here, that they believe the end justifies the means. They believe that justice will prevail, and that means by any cost, and every single one of them has a gun. Which is weird to me, which I guess kind of brings us to the poor taste thing. But I mean, we're going to move on from that.
It was weird too. The laws like is sort of like looks like a compass rose, like instead of northeast, west, south. It's
Yeah, I'm pretty
LA,
sure.
US.
That's what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's actually based on some like real life flag that was made. I'm almost certain if you probably looked at it, you probably would find it. But well, he's typing already, guys. I guess we're gonna have to give him a minute to see if we can find it.
Will you stop? I'm not looking for it. What is it again?
They don't have to look up. I'm just messing with you.
Why do you gotta get so meta on me?
No, I'm just saying that the logo you brought up. I'm pretty sure you would, if you looked it up, you could probably find some real life manifestation of it somewhere in real life. Because the Americans have made pretty poor choices. But
Americans have never made poor choices.
Moving on before we start a war in the Middle East. But the X-Laws get involved, and we see the X-Laws, as we stated before, they want to kill you. They want to kill Hal because they've been aware of Hal's existence over the years. Also, Basson Ren's spirit brings the fact that he's been alive for 500 years. Well, he's been dead for 500 years, and he's never encountered them. So that's also interesting. It sounds like these guys must have just sprang up randomly one time. Like 1 year. Granted, they all have a problem with Hal, so I'm pretty sure that's probably where they came from. It's like when Hal messed with them. I also want to bring up that you want to bring up some really weird things. There's a guy in here who's literally a pinhead. And, well, actually, his head's like a football in the X-Laws.
Are you talking about Choco Love?
No. And I can't believe we brought his name up. I have problems. And I know he's laughing because that's why he brought it, because he knew that's what I had. But we're going to talk about that later. I'm not going to rant about that yet. I like his character. I like his personality. Don't like the name. I'm not going to talk about that right now.
Okay. You said weird head, and I thought between him and Mick Jagger.
Oh, dear.
What?
And he saw it, too. He saw the... Okay, we're clearly losing traction here, so we're gonna just speed up a little long. I mean, we would talk a little bit about. I mean, pretty much the X-Laws are gonna kill somebody on Hal's side, and then stop them. Ended up breaking his sword in the process, which is the third time that he's done that. It's a common thing in anime where if you have a sword, you're pretty much gonna break it at some point and get it repaired or whatever.
Like Trunks.
He never got that thing repaired. He literally broke it and literally left it to fend for itself.
No, he would break it, and then you'd see him like with the sword again, like next time you saw him, and then that one would break.
At the end of the episode, we see Anna, Manta, and pink hair girl. I forgot her name. they somehow managed to,
Tomato.
huh?
Tomato.
Tamayo, they managed to make their way
I say
to like the,
tomato. I say tomato.
dang it. We managed to like they managed to somehow skip over a lot of like they managed to cover more ground by flying in a helicopter, and as they land, Hal makes an appearance. And I'm actually a little bit surprised that they all didn't mistake him for Yo, but I'm guessing there's a significant amount of a difference between them that I guess they wouldn't mistake him for Hal. I mean, mistake him for Yo, but the episode pretty much ends because he's saying he wanted to meet them. And now we get to the next episode. And again, we're not gonna talk about this character until like he comes up in the episode.
Are you talking about Choco Love again? Or Mick Jagger?
I actually liked Mick Jagger, or just Mick Jaguar. Though they're saying it Mick Jagger on purpose in the Japanese thing. But in this
episode 18 was more like a lot of setup and explication. There wasn't like 17 was like so rich with like symbolism and historical reference and conflicts of good and evil and things like that. And then you get to 18 and it's just like.
Well, they're trying to move the story plot along because like we forgot Anna existed and we need to make sure Anna is in the anime.
Yeah, I didn't feel the same enthusiasm about 18 as I did 17. I spent equal attention on both of them. The only thing that is ever gonna, like, 2 months from now when we bring up this episode, the only thing that's ever gonna stick with me is that they had fish and banana soup. And that I found out when I looked it up that it's actually really common in the Caribbean and Belize, and it's called, oh, I forgot to write it down, but it's like Tomo or something like that.
A part of me doesn't believe you, the other part of me does.
T-A-P-O-U.
Again, a part of me believes you and the other part of me doesn't.
Here, it's in the Discord.
I'm afraid to look this up.
But if you type in Google, if you type in fish and banana soup, you'll see references to it right away. It's Caribbean fish soup.
Man, when you sweat this out of your pores, you're gonna leave people wondering not to be near you.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't ever want to eat this. I don't know what's going, and especially in just for the people listening in. Here's what it says about what it is. Tapao is a creamy fish-based stew originating from Belize. Apart from the fish, the soup contains a wide range of ingredients such as coconut oil, garlic, onions, bell peppers, ginger, tomatoes, coconut milk, ashiote paste, orange juice, lime green bananas, cassava, potatoes, plantain, which is a banana, shrimp, cilantro, and various spices. But apparently green banana and root vegetables are like two of the core things for this. But like, yeah, that sounds like something a 3-year-old would make and bring to you as like a Father's Day gift for breakfast, and you'd be like, oh my god, how am I going to eat this thing? It just sounds like miscellaneous things they found around their kitchen and just dumped them all in. I don't even know what ashiote paste is. It is paste of ashiote, which I've never heard of. But anyway, it's Central American, so when the guy did feed it to him, apparently it was like actually a traditional food for them. So it was kind of like another reference into the culture, and that's like something I'm really impressed with this series is all the cultural references. But that was like the big thing that like stuck with me, like as far as like the beauty of like the writing and stuff like this. Like everything else felt just kind of like we can summarize it, but it all felt very standard to me.
I mean, basically, this episode, as we all said, is set up. Pretty much, we see Manta make it down to. Manta and the gang make it to where the fight's gonna happen, or the Shaman King fight's gonna happen. They meet Hal. Hal ends up. I guess the best way to put his speech is rah 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 Shaman King, rah rah, I like Anna, rah rah. I will point out that it's kind of funny that in his encounter they did the usual like main character girlfriend thing where she has a spunky personality, and usually if she ends up meeting the main villain of the arc, they end up taking a liking to her. I also want to point out, this is kind of interesting that Hal is going out of his way to like help Yo, even though it seems like it'd be against his best interest. He also makes it seem like he's certain that Yo's gonna help him with whatever he's trying to do, which is also weird. But I guess onto the whole thing that Yo likes to believe the best in everybody. It makes me wonder. Something they brought up before in the last episode, I think, or the episode prior to that one, where Anna was learning about the Asakura family heritage. They bring up that how originally he was a decent guy, he was a decent dude, but when he went to the spirit world where like the spirit king is, he came out changed. My thing is, if that is true, there's something really must have messed up happened when he was in there. I don't know what happened, but like maybe there's a piece of him that still can be reached by Yo, and maybe that's what Yo is sensing. Well, he's hoping that he can maybe reach that part of him if it's still in there. It makes me wonder if Hao is really the major antagonist here. I mean, the major villain here. He's clearly an antagonist, but he's not the villain yet. It makes me wonder if maybe the end goal isn't really defeating Hao. Maybe something's gonna happen to Hao, and he's gonna like, change sides.
I could see that. I could totally see it. Like it's just the tougher nut to crack. You know what I mean? Compared to the other.
Well,
people,
we need to know what happened to him when he went into that world to begin with, because they bring up the fact that he changed. That was the moment he changed. He apparently wasn't like this beforehand. I just thought that was intriguing that they bring that up. They didn't have to bring that up. They could have just made Hal the end all be all bad guy, but they decided to bring up the fact that he changed. So it's when we cut back to Yo broken his sword. Murasame and Minamaru is all in tears. It seems to be a common thing that Minamaru seems to be the most emotional out of all the guardian spirits, apparently. At least the one with that personality. But there's some of that. Really, they're just having that conversation about how and like what's the right thing to do, kill people or not kill people. Like we also have like I guess Lyserg's like whole little speech about he doesn't know if he can trust Hal, which is something that Jock brought up earlier on. Is that like they're really putting Lyserg in a very precarious position here. That I honestly feel like a part of me is remembering that I think he does switch sides. I don't really remember though. I might just be misremembering that, but I have no idea. I wouldn't put it past him because he seems to be so hardcore and gung-ho and trying to kill Hal. He doesn't care about who gets in his way. Which is kind of funny to his character design. He doesn't look that way. He's almost like made to be pure looking and innocent looking on the outside, but he's like, conniving and vindictive on the inside.
Yeah, I see that. I will say, for this episode, it was cool to see the Great Spirit and to see that it was made of a bunch of other spirits and how radical it was.
Actually, speaking on that, something about the Great Spirit, when Yo and the gang come out of the cave and see the Great Spirit for the first time, they all faint. Well, except for one person. But for the most part, all of them faint somewhat, or looking at the spirit because you get your genes memories woken up by looking at it, and some people can't sustain the amount of memories that get like put into your memory. Yo faints. Ren is actually just staring at it like hardcore the entire time. It doesn't seem like he's affected by anything, which is like, oh my goodness. I guess Ren has the most capacity for this apparently, which is funny. Ryu faints a little bit, but he wakes up first out of all of them, which is even funnier. I actually kind of wonder, does that mean that he has less capacity because he woke up sooner? I have no idea. But the thing I want to bring up is the fact that Manta brings up that he is looking at the he's looking at the Spirit King, but we don't hear him mention that he fainted or he lost track of time. I thought that was weird and almost like a plot hole.
What was the plot hole? I'm sorry.
No, like Manta brings up that he has looked at the spirit, that mass of the Great Spirit, but he doesn't mention that he's lost track of time or anything.
Oh yeah.
He mentions that he's looked at it. And he was in all of it. So I was like, I'm just curious. Is that gonna come back?
Is it because he's reincarnated and kept himself over those reincarnations so many times? Maybe he's a little more in touch with his past history and stuff.
What, Manta?
No, I was thinking, what's his name?
Who? Hal?
Never mind. Yeah,
No, I mean Manta mentions he looked at it. I'm pretty sure Hal looked at it all the dang time. I'm pretty sure because he's from the Patch Village.
the little blonde dude looked at it and he was okay. It's pretty impressive.
He didn't say he lost track of time or anything like that, but he said he's looked at it and he was impressed by it.
Hmm.
I thought that was odd because it's like you think they bring up the fact that you look at it, you end up like you depending on how much capacity you have, like you could like easily die from it. So I don't know.
That's
It seems kind of
interesting about him. It opens up a little bit of a question about him. But they also mentioned that that place is like a tourist town. They're selling souvenirs there and stuff like that. So maybe it's not as big a deal as they make it sound at first.
but Yo ends up fainting though. If it's not that big of a deal, I mean, he would have walked in there. He just would have said, "Oh my goodness, that thing is huge." That's what she said. But
But they've got people to pull you out when you faint. You know what I mean? And then they take care of you. And everybody, there was no chance that anybody there would be like pulled out. So it seems like you were attended to.
I guess, I guess now we're at this point in the episode, we're gonna bring up his name was already brought up like twice. Choco Love. First, I want to preface this, but I've actually known about this character for actually a couple of months because a lot of people, he was one of the characters that apparently was butchered in the original airing of this show, and people were excited that the character is being brought back into his original form. Because I think the design that was in 4Kids, his nose was big, and apparently people took offense to that. And it wasn't just the black populace, apparently it was a bunch of people who's apparently, I guess, knew his character design. He's cool, he's pretty funny in some ways. I have a problem with his name. It's mostly because he's black. I don't know why, of all the names, I guess he must be of African descent, but I don't know why of all the names, they went with Choco Love. I am so confused and concerned. I haven't seen anybody make a big uproar over this, but it's just like, this is not going to age well. That character's name is not going to age well. Like, I was hoping that maybe it was a joke and maybe he's going to say his actual name, but his actual name is Choco Love.
Yeah, I was waiting for the real name reveal. I'm like, okay, they can't be doing this.
He's a cool character. I like his character. He's pretty funny, but his name is gonna be the hardest thing for me to get over.
I was having a tough time with his outie belly button, but I guess the name is what we can focus on.
That's just a character design thing going. I think that's actually something that they do in certain animes. It might actually, I mean, honestly, this is probably the worst thing for them to do. But we see another character like him as of his race, and he has an outie belly button too. We're gonna probably just assume that every character of that descent in that show just has an outie belly button. I didn't actually notice that. I was more attached to the name. I was in more disbelief of the name than anything else. But well, I guess that's the interesting thing is that he ends up bringing up some more like plot relevance, saying that the next part of this tournament is going to be a tournament. And it's going to be a group tournament, and there's like I think it's like 3 groups, 2 of them who are out there to be against Hal, and one of them is X-Laws. The other one I forgot the name of the group, but it looked like it was being led by a female shaman. So I guess we'll find out what that group's all about later. I assume.
Yeah. They all have a theme, so I'm sure once we figure out like what 1 or 2 of them is like, we'll know the whole group.
I mean, based on everything, he first lets everybody know that there's like he's looking to join a group, and as he lets this information out, Ren gets the smart idea to team up just with Horo and Choco Love. Please change that man's name. Please change that man's name. I'm sorry.
It turned out to be a wise choice, even though Choco Love, like, we have no indication so far, except the fact that he was deemed worthy by the spirit, that he can do literally anything. like it still turned out to be not the worst choice because we know, as you know, people that know things that the characters don't know, that Lyserg is being set up to be some sort of betrayer, you know. So in our eyes, we know that Lyserg is thinking about stabbing him in the back, and that would make him kind of a toxic person to have on your team. But I don't understand why the other guy picks him. He's like, oh, I care not to join my team as long as it's 3, you know. And that seems kind of stupid, but whatever.
Well, that's just Ren for you. I guess another thing too is to bring up Choco Love Spirit. That name. Sorry, I'm gonna have a hard. Oh, the name of the other group is called Gandara, and I almost want to say that the woman that they show there. I could be wrong, but I think that group, at least she might be a Hindu shaman. I might be wrong about saying that too, because I noticed she has this little like she has this thing on her forehead, and I know that's common in a different part of Asia, specifically India. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually where she came from. When she came from India, because we have yet to see anybody from India that I'm aware of. I don't think we see anybody from India, so she looks like she could be from there. She also could be an Aztec. I had no idea, but yeah, I just wanted to break that up because I was looking at it. I think it's called. I think her name might be Gandhara. But to go further, I guess we could break up. Speaking of names, Mick Jagger. Am I the only one to assume that I think they knew what they were doing there?
How could they not? Especially since this guy's gimmick is poorly translated puns.
Oh, you mean camisole?
Well, he came up with a bunch of puns, and I was like, the only answer here is that these aren't being translated.
I'm sorry. I still can't get over his name, but I think it all like went under the bridge for me as soon as I was laughing my ass off at everything of all the names that they like and all the puns that he was doing. It was just ridiculous. I'm expecting he's gonna be a lot more powerful than you were expecting, but it's just like he's obviously a comedic effect because they don't have a character like that yet. Usually that'd be Ryu, but as we saw, Ryu's kind of going through a transformation and he shed that part of his personality. So we need somebody out here that can be comedic effect. And I guess they chose a racially named black character, but we're just gonna move on.
No, it's great that we have 2 black characters. One's this tiny little one that refers to herself in the third person, and the other one is got an outie belly button, and that's all I have to say about that. Honestly, if Froppy had an outie, I would no longer be attracted to her. That's not to say I'm attracted to Choco Love, but like still.
I'm sorry, just every time you say that name, like I lose a little bit of brain cells.
You know, there's a company in Boulder, Colorado named Choco Love.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't
It's
surprise
big
me at all.
enough. It's big enough to have its own Wikipedia page.
Okay, moving on to Mick Jagger. I'm half expecting his oversoul to be a mic. Just because his whole thing was, as you said, poorly translated puns, but usually that usually follows the character being a comedian or something like that, or wanting to like spread laughs. And again, with the really poorly aged things, if they decide to make him a comedian and that's why he's doing the Shaman King thing, I would have a problem with it, but just be why, why? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting. I'm gonna give because people apparently this character got butchered back in 4Kids days. So like apparently this is his original. This is how he's supposed to look and everything like that. So I'm guessing that either his personality also got butchered too. So like I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm just like right now his name isn't giving me hope. This has become the bike thing for me again. I'm just not gonna get over this.
I feel like eventually you're just gonna be like, we can't watch this anime anymore.
I'm gonna watch it all the way to the end. I'm just gonna sit there and say that like this anime's got a demerit for me just based on this one character alone.
It's pretty rough.
Oh dear, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen too because his name is a mouthful anyway. They're gonna probably call him Chaco as for short. I'm calling it now. And it's like, really? You couldn't come up with an actual name for this guy. Maybe he does have an actual name and he goes by Chocolate Love as a stage name. I have no idea. He definitely did say that was his real
Maybe
name. So,
maybe it's his porn name.
ugh, ugh, sorry, just the thought of that. Ugh. But I guess trying to getting beyond this character.
Can you
He's a
though?
pretty
Can
good
you
useful
really?
plot device. What?
Can you though? Can you really?
I'm gonna do my best to go get beyond it. Uh, I guess to get beyond this, because the rest of most of this episode is just like setting up for who's gonna be on whose team, and we know that's gonna be Ren, Horo, and Chocolate Love. Um, I know Ryu's gonna team up with Lysarg, so we just need to know who the third member on his team is gonna be. Um, Actually, I guess it's gonna be Yo because I don't think there's not many characters left to get team up. Unless Lysarg changes teams, and it's gonna be Yo, Ryu, and I don't know who else is left in there. So there might be an or oh dear. At the end of the episode, we see Faust for the first time in a while, and he's in a wheelchair. Um, I think didn't because Faust won his match with Yo. And he hadn't seen him since. Ooh boy, that's gonna be a little bit weird if Faust ends up teaming up with Yo, because I think there's yeah, I'm actually doing the math correctly. There isn't enough people to split into multiple teams like that.
Maybe his wife can just join him.
Whose wife? Wait, oh, you know what?
Yeah, Anna and Yo. They'll just start taking on.
Well, she isn't a shaman. She doesn't have the Oracle Bell.
That's okay. They never said you had to have a shaman. They just said teams of 3, didn't they?
But I think the team is a 3 shaman. This the whole thing's about it, is being the Shaman King.
Nobody said shaman. They just said 3. Maybe they'll bring Vash with them.
Vash is over there with the X Laws. He's got his own team worked out.
Did you still? Go ahead.
I guess speaking of Anna, before we start closing this up here, Anna shows up out of nowhere too. It's kind of funny because like they have have Anna have some vulnerable moments. It's kind of funny to have one of her vulnerable moments say that if Yo doesn't win, someone else is gonna take her, and all Yo has to say, and this is typical anime fare. He's like, I'm sorry, everybody just face plants, face palms. I mean, everybody just face palms. It's like, I just like, man, is he this dense? I was like, yeah, he's this dense. He's this dense.
I got a kick out of Anna negotiating for the thing at the fair when the guy asked $380 and she wanted 380 yen, and like I looked it up and it's like $3.33.
Jeez.
It was like less than like a of what the guy wanted for it, and she's like, that's a fair price. It's just a souvenir.
Yeah, Anna's a really weird character. Like, she's introduced to be this hard ass, but at the end of the day, she really just cares about Yo. At the end of the day, she just has a really weird way of showing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then we get Faust singing a song who I don't know where the song is from, but Faust is singing a song with Manta running up on him. And I feel so sorry for Manta because I'm pretty sure that's PTSD incarnate right there. Man literally opened him up in a cemetery. Imagine seeing that guy somewhere else after he nearly kills you. I'm pretty sure you would have PTSD and probably have a heart attack. Like you wouldn't want to be near this guy. I'm almost certain. Like Manta's having a PTSD stroke right now. I was like, I couldn't blame him. This man literally tried turning you into a zombie and almost succeeded. But that's the end of the episode there. I guess this episode is called Black Jaguar.
Wait, did we cover Mako at the end in a wheelchair? I'm sorry, I spaced out a little bit.
That's Faust in a wheelchair.
Are you sure that's Faust, not Mako?
Who the heck is Mako?
Mako is the Mako of the X-Laws, the Seraph guy that looks like Vash.
No, that's Faust because like nothing happened to. I saw that like that's Faust.
Okay.
Because I can go back
I'm
there and
just
look.
making sure because Mako of the X-Laws looked a little bit like that, and I was thinking that maybe he got like burned out from seeing the spirit or something like that, and they were showing that like there were consequences to
No,
that
that's
spirit.
Faust because you can see that on his on the character. He's got those stitches on his upper torso.
Okay,
And,
I stand corrected on that then.
and he's like wearing that gray lipstick on his face too.
Gray lipstick. Oh my god. Okay. You just wanted to say that. That's all that was. You just wanted to say that.
I'm sorry. He's not wrong, but I'm sorry.
You are sorry.
Wow. Okay, we're gonna just use that as a segue to end this podcast. But he's singing a creepy song that doesn't look anything like doesn't look anything like Marco.
Sorry.
The only thing that actually distinguishes they have blonde hair. And
I
Monta kind of
started out strong today, and I started fizzling out.
that's no problem, but and also Monta runs up on him. I don't think Monta has anything to do with Marco. But I guess the guys are going to end that. We're going to end that here. We're going to come back next week with 2 more episodes to review of Shaman King. We'll get caught up with the Shaman King series and be reviewing one episode at a time. I'm sure of it, and we'll stumble upon that crossroad link into it. Thank you guys for downloading these episodes. They mean a lot, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.